Court is in session. Please be seated. Good morning, counsel. Good morning, spectators. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. This is the People's State of California versus Timothy Richard Heidecker, case number 02-CF-025. Mr. Heidecker.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning. Good morning, jury. I would like to call my first witness for the defense for the day is acclaimed cinema screenwriter and film director Nicholas Meyer.
Sir, would you please be sworn in?
Do you swear, under the penalty of perjury, to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Meyer. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine so far.
Any relation to Oscar?
I was once nominated for an Oscar for
There you
the
go.
screenplay I wrote for the 7% Solution.
Okay, well there we go. We have let's sort of a celebrity-filled occasion today. It's very exciting. Congratulations to you on the nomination. Just for the record, may you state your full name and spell your last name, please.
Nicholas Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. And Mr. Meyer, can you give the court and the jury here a little background? I know you've already mentioned the nomination of the Oscar, which is very exciting, but give us a little more background on your career.
I've written, directed a bunch of movies over the years, including some of the Star Trek films, The Day After, my anti-nuclear film.
Okay, I think that gives us a pretty good background. You mentioned Star Trek, which the television show or the movies, or?
I co-wrote and directed Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I co-wrote and directed Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And I co-wrote but did not direct Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, which was directed by Leonard Nimoy.
Okay, I'd like to speak briefly about Star Trek IV, the subtitle of which you just said was...
I didn't.
I'm sorry. The title of Star Trek IV,
The Voyage Home.
The Voyage Home. Mm-hmm. Okay, and as a screenwriter, you're pretty familiar with the story of that
yes,
movie?
I'm pretty familiar with the story.
Yeah, I would hope so. When you say home in that title, what does home refer to?
Earth.
Okay, Earth. So the Star Trek gang is out in space, and their voyage in that episode, in that movie, is to Earth.
Yes.
Okay. And specifically, though, is there a location in that film where...
San Francisco. They go to San Francisco.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, because we had an outburst here? Where does the main plot of Star Trek IV take place?
The crew of the Enterprise returns to Earth seeking the help of humpback whales to answer a probe from outer space with a matching signal.
In Star Trek II.
Mr. Tarkington, one warning and one warning only. One more outburst, and you will be dismissed from this courtroom.
Just trying to be accurate.
Excuse me, Your Honor, I don't see the relevance of Mr. Meyer's testimony as to the Star Trek movies.
The relevance is you brought this fraud here, Greg Turkington, as an expert witness,
yes,
when his basic understanding of movies is there is none. He doesn't seem to understand very fundamental aspects of film. May I ask you again, Mr. Meyer, where does the plot of Star Trek IV take place? What city?
San Francisco.
Thank you. In Star Trek II, you also directed and wrote Star Trek II.
Yes.
Does any of that movie take place in San Francisco?
Yes, there are actually a couple of scenes that are set in San Francisco. They weren't filmed there, but the Starfleet Academy, the simulator room, those were intended to be San Francisco, and Kirk's apartment overlooks San Francisco Bay. It's a set.
Hold on.
That's what I've been saying.
No.
Star
Mr.
Trek 2 is set in
Torkington.
San Francisco.
Can we, I don't know, it's a kangaroo court.
Would you please assist Mr. Torkington in finding the hallway?
Set in San Francisco, Star Trek 2.
Star Trek 2 is not set in San
Just said it was
Francisco.
set in- He directed it. And he said
Can you
Mr.
clarify your
Torkington?
answer, because you're being very vague,
He
sir?
said it was set
I'm being
in
vague?
San
No.
Francisco, Star Trek 2.
Star Trek 2, the plot, you would not classify the plot of Star Trek 2 as being set in San Francisco.
No, what I said were that there were a couple of scenes in the movie that were set but not filmed in San Francisco.
If you were asked, a man on the street, which episode, which Star Trek movie takes place in San Francisco, your answer would be?
Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Meyer, when did you first meet the defendant, Tim Heidecker?
I met him this morning, but I got a call from him around 10:30 last night.
So you just met him today.
Correct.
And what did he say when he called you last night?
He asked me to appear here today as an expert witness.
And did he offer to pay you?
He did.
What did he offer to pay you?
$10,000.
I have no further questions.
I have a right to call expert witnesses and pay them whatever I want. Thank you very much, Mr. Meyer. This is unbelievably generous of you to come down here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. You are dismissed.
Okay.
That was pretty cool.
Your Honor, I move that the entire testimony of Mr. Myers be stricken by the record was totally irrelevant. We call Mr. Turkington to the stand for purposes other than his views on the Star Trek movies.
Well, I request that the jury throw out all the testimony of Greg Turkington, because obviously he's a liar and a rat and completely unqualified to discuss anything, especially movies.
Motion
And-
is overruled. The testimony will stand. No further argument is necessary on this point.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.